Hello everyone.
Hello.
I'm Tony.
And I'm Tali.
And we are
the Lazy Book Lovers.
This is a podcast for book lovers who procrastinate about reading and have never-ending to-be-read files. So she's putting her cup down and I was waiting for it.
And I was waiting for you to finish. Communication.
Today's episode we're doing some spooky recs.
Spoopy
time.
Yeah.
Yes, we are saying that with a P, and we're saying it with a P on purpose.
Okay.
If my calculations are correct, this should be coming out just before Halloween. We're gonna find out if I can do date math. We're gonna find out.
Hopefully. If not, this will help you start building next year's Tabara. But you should just read horror all the time, please and thank you.
So she has someone to talk to. Right, you're up.
Let's just
you're
jump
the lady with the list.
it. I've put them into like little categories.
Categories?
Yes.
So, like the upcoming reading update. Cannibals. Mystery. Crime.
Visit next week's episode.
Yeah, that's next week's episode.
Yeah, visit next week's episode.
Yeah, but no, it was Cannibals, Classics and Crime, wasn't it?
Yeah, Cannibals, Classics, Crime. That's what that episode should be called.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we'll forget that. Right.
That's right, future us will be telling us when we listen to the
Call
edit.
it that. Okay, so these are books I recommend. So these are all books I have read. I won't go into too much detail on them today, but I will have spoken about all of them, I believe, on previous episodes. So just go back and listen to our entire back catalogue.
Go on, there's not that many.
I'm sure you're bored at work. Okay, so the first one and the biggest one is beginner/spoopy recommendations. So these are good for those that don't normally read horror or just want to put out some feelers to see if it's something they want to get into.
So these are ones for me, probably.
Yeah, so unintentionally, all of these books in the beginner section are YA or middle grade.
Okay.
Not intentional, just happen to be
Just
that
happy
way.
accident.
Yeah. I'm not saying that YA horror is less horrific. There's a lot of YA horror that isn't on this list, so yeah. So the first one is The Taking of Jake Livingston by Ryan Douglas. So this follows, I'm probably going to go by the descriptions rather than me trying to do it off the top of my head to stop rambling. So yeah. So Jake Livingston is one of the only black kids at St. Clair Prep, one of the others being his infinitely more popular older brother. It's hard enough fitting in, but to make matters worse and definitely more complicated, Jake can see the dead. In fact, he sees the dead around him all the time. Most are harmless, stuck in their death loops as they relive their deaths over and over again. They don't interact often with people, but then Jake meets Sawyer, a troubled teen who shot and killed 16 kids at a local high school last year before taking his own life. Now a powerful, vengeful ghost, he has plans for his afterlife, plans to include Jake. With all of these books, obviously the very nature of horror, I would suggest looking up content warnings for all of them.
Yeah.
And if you aren't already on Storygraph, I would very much recommend setting up a Storygraph account. It has the content warnings on there that readers and reviewers can submit.
Yeah.
And they can also be approved or added by the author as well. So they're a really good collection of content warnings. So yeah,
Not just arbitrary ones assigned by Amazon.
yeah, exactly. So that book is really fun. It's queer as well, if I remember correctly. Yes, it is. Yeah, which we love.
Love a bit.
Lots and lots. And the next one is one that Tony has recently read, Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas.
Yeah.
I feel that this would be a good beginner
Spooky.
entrance into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be really good for like a spoopy vibe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the first in a series. No idea when the second one comes out as of yet. And it follows Yadriel, who is a trans boy who has summoned a ghost, and now he can't get rid of him. When his traditional Latinx, whatever feels more comfortable for you, and whatever is actually correct, family has problems accepting his true gender, Yadriel becomes determined to prove himself a real Brujo. And Bruja is the female version. Yeah. With the help of his cousin and his best friend Maritza, he performs the ritual himself and then sets out to find the ghost of his murdered cousin and set it free. However, the ghost he summons is actually Julian Diaz, the school's resident bad boy. Is it Julian or Julian?
Oh, you said Julian, but I don't know if that is correct.
Yeah. And Julian is not about to go quietly into death. He's determined to find out what happened and tie off some loose ends before he leaves. Left with no choice, Yadriel agrees to help Julian so that they can both get what they want. But the longer Yadriel spends with Julian, the less he wants him to leave. So you can hear us go into more discussion of this in next week's reading update. Because Tony has literally just read this.
Yes.
But
I think
it's a really fun
Julian because they call him Jules as a nickname.
Then it will be Julian, yeah. And it's got like kind of magic.
They guard
witches.
a cemetery. Like his people guard a cemetery.
Yeah.
It's Dias de Muertos. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
I don't know.
Dias de Muertos.
Yeah, maybe that. I did actually listen to that as an audiobook, but it was so long ago I can't remember now.
I'm not very confident in speaking Spanish. I'm trying to do my Duolingo and learn some, but speaking it back I feel really not self-conscious doing.
Speaking it is a different thing.
Yeah.
Next on the list is Clown in a Cornfield, which is the first in the Clown in a Cornfield series.
This one, and I really didn't like it.
By Adam Cesare. So, Queen Maybrook and her father have moved to tiny, boring Kettle Springs to find a fresh start. But what they don't know is that ever since the Bay Pen corn syrup factory shut down, Kettle Springs has cracked in half. On one side are the adults who are desperate to make Kettle Springs great again, and on the other side are the kids who want to have fun, make prank videos and get out of Kettle Springs as quickly as they can. Kettle Springs is caught in a battle between old and new, tradition and progress. It's a fight that looks like it will destroy the town, until Frendo, the Bay Pen mascot, a creepy clown in a pork pie hat, goes homicidal and decides that the only way for Kettle Springs to grow back is to cull the rotten crop of kids who live there now. This would be on the kind of less spoopy end of the beginner recommendations. This one's like...
This is more horror thriller, yeah.
This one would be really good if you enjoy slasher films. So if you enjoy like Scream and stuff, this would be a good one. Obviously, along all of the content warnings, we're going to throw a big clowns in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to uni with someone who was terrified of clowns. And most of Halloween was spent on Clown Watch.
Yeah, well, people dress up as clowns.
I was just surprised how many people did. Because we were in a club in Birmingham.
I guess it's an easy costume, isn't it, really?
So I was on Clown Watch. So we'd literally be like, we'd spot a clown and just sort of clasp her to us until the clown was gone.
Yeah, I'm really not a fan of clowns. I'm better now. But I watched the TV series It. When I was too young to have watched it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I used to have a bunch of clown toys. And I didn't even know the clown fear was a thing for people until I had friends come over and they were like, these are creepy.
What the fuck is that clown doing?
Well, I was saying porcelain dolls, didn't I?
Yeah.
So like a lot of people who would refuse to sleep over and I'm like, why? There's just 1,000 tiny faces staring at you and clowns.
What's your issue?
What is your problem?
The second book is called Clown in a Cornfield 2 Frendo Lives, and that came out last year. There is going to be a third as well, I believe. And also, I'm trying to think, because I follow him on YouTube and Instagram, and he was talking about there was like feelers being put out for a TV show, I think.
Interesting.
So
well,
watch
that would
this
be a
space,
good one.
I guess. Yeah. Next one is one I recently spoke about. You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kalynn Bayron. So this follows... Is that one?
Oh, yeah. The one with I like that cover.
Yeah. So, Charity Curtis has the summer job of her dreams, playing the final girl at Camp Mirror Lake. Guests pay to be scared in this full-contact terror game, as Charity and her summer crew recreate scenes from the classic slasher film Curse at Camp Mirror Lake. Yeah. The most realistic, the better for business. But the last weekend of the season, Charity's co-workers begin disappearing. And when one ends up dead, Charity's role as the final girl suddenly becomes all too real. If Charity and her girlfriend Bezzy hope to survive the night, they'll need to figure out what this killer is after. Is there more to the story at Mirror Lake? And its dangerous past? Is there more to the story at Mirror Lake and its dangerous past than Charity ever suspected? There we go. So yeah, this is one of those ones that if you really enjoy summer camp horror films, you know, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Friday the 13th. Anything along those kind of veins. Sleepaway Camp. The Fear Street trilogy. I would say pick up this. It's not too spooky. Well,
so I don't mind.
It's not too spooky.
I don't mind horror films. Like, I can watch horror films and spooky films, and they don't bother me at all. It's books that do more to me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like I can watch like my friends, because my friends know I'm pretty like an easy person to watch these with, because like they don't really freak me out that much. So like I have a friend who saves them to watch with me. So I need someone sensible here while I watch this. But it's just books. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's my brain making the images.
Yeah, exactly.
They're worse for me.
Yeah.
Do you remember Mama? It was a movie.
What was it called, sorry?
Mama.
Was that the Spanish one?
Oh, I don't know. It's two little girls found in the woods. And then, like, loads of creepy shit starts happening when they're
no, I haven't seen that one. No.
Yeah, so, like, it's their mum goes mad and, like, leaves with the girls and, like, goes to a cabin in the woods and dies. And then the ghost of Mama haunts these two girls, and then her sister, like, adopts them when they're found. And then loads and loads of creepy shit starts happening. And, like, all of that stuff is really spooky. Like, the kid talking to invisible Mama. But then there's a bit where you literally just see Mama, and all she's, like, all creepy and crawly and, like, you can't see what I'm doing.
No.
But,
but it's fantastic.
but the thing is, once you see her, she's not scary anymore.
Films that show the ghouly goo.
I'm like, this is not frightening anymore.
I just need to see little glimpses of it.
Yeah.
In the background, there's a film. What's it called? It came out like last year, I think. And do you remember the whole Momo thing?
Kind of.
Yeah, it's like someone tried to kind of do a rip on that, and it's a terrible film. And they just show the ghoul the whole time in its full glory. And it's not. I mean, it is creepy for me because the imagery of it, but it lost the creep. Like
the woman in black, you don't see her. She's just
scary.
Like this passing figure. Yeah.
So yeah. The next one is House of Hollow by Krystal Sutherland. So this is a dark, twisty, modern fairy tale where three sisters discover they are not exactly all that they seem, and evil things really do go bump in the night. Iris Hollow and her two older sisters are unquestionably strange. Ever since they disappeared on a suburban street in Scotland as children, only to return a month later with no memory of what had happened to them. Odd, eerie occurrences seem to follow in their wake, and they're changing. First their dark hair turned white, then their blue eyes slowly turned black. They have insatiable appetites yet never gain weight. People find them disturbingly intoxicating, unbearably beautiful, and inexplicitly dangerous. But now, 10 years later, 17-year-old Iris Hollow is doing all she can to fit in and graduate high school on time, something her two famously glamorous globe-trotting older sisters, Grey and Vivi, never managed to do. But when Grey goes missing without a trace, leaving behind bizarre clues as to what might have happened, Iris and Vivi are left to trace her last few days. They aren't the only ones looking for her, though. As they brush against the supernatural, they realise that the story they've been told about their past is unravelling, and a world that returns them seemingly unharmed 10 years ago might just be calling them home. This is so good. It's not like... It's like eerie, scary, like the atmosphere is spooky, and the like not knowing is spooky. I didn't mention, but all of the ones that I've recommended so far are all queer books as well, just FYI, because
why not?
There's nothing scarier than being queer. And the last one in the beginner/spoopy catalogue is a middle grade, and it's one I recently read, called Bella Bright and the Ghost Game by Carolyn Ward. And this follows 11-year-old Bella Bright, who has just moved into Darkling House in Castleton. On her first day at a new school, she is spotted by a pair of manipulative mean girls, Skylar and Regan. They push her into inviting them to a Halloween sleepover. Another much friendlier girl, Lex, comes to Bella's rescue and offers to join the sleepover to support Bella, who is delighted to be making a real friend. On Halloween night, things start getting spooky for the four girls when the huge front door appears to shut itself and their mobile phones lose signal. They decide to order pizza using a landline, but a hair-raising whisper comes down the line. Skylar suggests they play hide and seek, but as she utters the words, the house appears to wobble and they discover all the exits are impossibly locked. Bella searches the manor and a ghostly teenage girl appears in front of her. She reveals herself to be Alice, a young girl who died in a house 150 years ago during a game of hide and seek gone terribly wrong. She has hidden Bella's three friends and gives Bella a rhyming clue to find them in the enormous and carnivorous house. Bella has until midnight. After that, Alice will get to keep the girls as their playmates forever. It's really, really eerie for a middle grade. It's also illustrated, and the images are really like gross. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, and this is the one that I was sent by the publisher, and it came with a letter.
Yeah.
And I finally opened that, and it was a bonus chapter from the ghost's point of view.
Oh, okay. How was
really
that?
Cool. Yeah, it was really cool. It was just such a cool experience. The book was, honestly, it was the images got me, and it's a middle grade, so
interesting.
Just saying. Check it out.
That might be my entry-level spooky.
Yeah, the middle grade one. It gave me like Goosebumps vibes. So if you liked Goosebumps as a child, give it a try.
Oh yeah, I know I wasn't really a big Goosebumps person.
What about Are You Afraid of the Dark?
No, we didn't have that channel. We didn't have many good channels.
But did you read the books?
No.
Oh.
I was reading the ones with the pet ones. The one that,
Animal Arc.
Yeah.
My son reads them now, the new versions, and I'm like, I used to read these!
I loved Animal Arc.
I used to have so many.
I had all the story tapes as well. Tapes. Not to show my age, but actual freaking tapes.
Cassette tapes. Okay, so now we're going to go into...
what's our new category?
All the other categories, we just got two for each, because I didn't want to get too extreme. So we're going to start with, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, it's either Sporer or Sporer, and it's horror featuring spores. Yeah. So the first one, I did think, it's not on the list because I haven't read it, but maybe that the girl that moves, the girl with all the gifts, that would come onto this, because that's like a spore thing that infects them, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe a little
bit.
So
I think that would come onto this. But I haven't read it, so I can't recommend it.
More creepy vibes, like, because the zombie plant people are, like, obviously eat humans, but when there's no humans or there's no, like, sound stimulus, they just kind of, like, stand still. And, like, yeah,
that sounds like a horror then.
And then they have to, like, walk through the city full of them trying to not make noise.
Like an episode of Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Understood. Right, first one is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, which I've spoken about many a time, but...
why not one more?
A lot of these I've spoken about many a time, so... After receiving a frantic letter from her newlywed cousin begging for someone to save her from a mysterious doom, Naomi, I always pronounce it wrong, Naomi heads to High Place, a distant house in the Mexican countryside. She's not sure what she'll find. Her cousin's husband, a handsome Englishman, is a stranger, and Naomi knows little about the region. Naomi is also an unlikely rescuer. She's a glamorous debutante, and her chic gowns and perfect red lipstick are more suited for cocktail parties than amateur sleuthing. But she's also tough and smart, and she is not afraid. Not of her cousin's new husband, who is both menacing and alluring. Not of his father, the ancient patriarch, who seems to be fascinated by Naomi. And not even of the house itself, which begins to invade her dreams with visions of blood and doom.
Ew.
Her only ally in this inhospitable abode is the family's youngest son. Shy and gentle, he seems to want to help Naomi, but might also be hiding dark knowledge of his family's past, for there are many secrets behind the walls of High Place. The family's once colossal wealth and faded mining empire keep them from prying eyes, but as Naomi digs deeper, she unearths stories of violence and madness.
Yeah, this one did sound really good whenever you did
So
read it and we did the review on the podcast. This one sounded really good.
It is so good. It's set in, I don't know if it's said in here, but it's set in like the 50s, 1950s. So it's like an isolated place. You can see like the influences from lots of very good classic horror. Yeah, it was really good.
Like, especially the house being involved, that feels very like 18th
the house
century.
is like a character in it. Yeah. For some reason, it's never listed on any of the content warnings, but I know that this is a big trigger for some people, so I will. I don't think it's a spoiler, so I will mention it. There is a discussion of eugenics in it. And I know that can be a big trigger for some people, and it's not listed on Storygraph, so I will mention that. But yeah, it's fantastic. Silvia Moreno-Garcia is just... I don't know how she does it. She's quite like T. Kingfisher.
Yeah.
And that she seems to be able to turn her hand to any genre and just spin gold. So...
I love like authors like that as well, especially when they don't restrict themselves to a genre.
No.
And they write across them. I think that needs to be a thing now. Like, yeah.
I would love to see Mexican Gothic as a TV show directed by Mike Flanagan. If someone could make that happen for me, please.
Come on, get on it.
Come on, Mike. I know you listen.
You must know people who know people. Get a message to Mike.
I know you've done Haunting of Hill House and The Bly Manor. Now it's time that you do the Mexican Gothic.
I'd be surprised if there's not going to be one, surely.
Yeah, I just... When I really enjoy a book, I don't want it as a film anymore. I want a TV show. I want an adaptation with money behind it and nothing cut out of the plot. So the next one in Sporer or Sporer. How would you pronounce it? I think it's Sporer, but should it be Sporer because we're saying spores?
Sporer? Sporer.
Sporer?
Yeah.
Next one in the Sporer is T. Kingfisher. Speaking of T. Kingfisher. And actually T. Kingfisher, full disclosure, is on this list twice. I did remove some, so I've managed... I stopped myself at 2. Again, T. Kingfisher is a master of genres, but does horror particularly well. So yeah, What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. This was originally a standalone, but now it's the first in a series. There's a second one that's been announced called What Feasts at Night, and the covers look gorgeous together.
It's like...
The first one is a rabbit, and the second one is a horse by the looks of it, and they're like being eaten
quite
from the
similar
inside.
to the second Ninth House book.
Yeah. And they're being like eaten from the inside. The horse is being eaten from the inside. The rabbit is like got loads of fungi growing across it. Just great covers. They capture the essence very well. So, What Moves the Dead is a retelling of House of Usher.
Yes, I remember this one.
Who's that by? It doesn't say here.
Edgar Allan Poe.
That's it. I've not read that. I should do.
I've read the original for school.
Yeah.
It was alright.
I should read it.
That's another one where the house is, like, alive.
Yeah, like a almost sentient house.
Mm.
So this is a queer book, just FYI. When Alex Easton, a retired soldier, receives word that their childhood friend Madeline Usher is dying, they race to the ancestral home of the Ushers in the remote countryside of Ruritania. It's like a fictional place.
Okay.
What they find there is a nightmare of fungal growths and possessed wildlife surrounding a dark, pulsing lake. Madeline sleepwalks and speaks in strange voices at night, and her brother Roderick is consumed with a mysterious malady of the nerves. Aided by a reputable British mycologist?
Can I see it?
Yeah. He's brought in...
Mycologist,
He's brought in to do something with the plant life, if I remember correctly. And a baffled American doctor, Alex must unravel the secret of the House of Usher before it consumes them all. There is some scenes in this that really, really got under my skin, which is an odd phrasing when you think about it. Yeah. I listened to this as an audio when I was in hospital. I was, potentially dying of sepsis after giving birth.
So you know what's a good thing to listen to?
This. So I listened to this.
You're right up.
I listened to this, and I listened to Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. And I was lucky enough, or at risk of dying enough, that I had a private room on the ward. So I listened to it out loud as well, and it was just really creepy.
Did you have any nurses come in while you were listening?
Yeah, I had to pause it. Because I was being checked on every 4 hours, and then my daughter was being checked on every 4 hours, but with 2 hours difference. They didn't check on us at the same time.
That's nice.
That would have been way too helpful, especially during the night. But look, I didn't die, so what can I'm happy.
You didn't die, and it was
and
for
my
free,
baby didn't die, and
it was all free, apart from parking.
Yeah. So I don't know if that added to the experience of it, being sleep deprived.
Hospitals are spooky.
Trying not to die. Yeah. Spooky hospitals. I could hear people's alarms and beepings going off all night. At night, hospitals are really spooky.
Yeah, well, I worked for a hospital, and I used to have to go in the underground corridors that are for staff. Yeah. And some of those
Disneyland.
with obviously you don't know if it's night or day down there. So you go down in the underground, it's this could be any time. It's so creepy down there. Yeah. And was featured in a lot of, I used to have zombie nightmares, don't worry about it. That underground area of the hospital featured in many of the zombie nightmares. Yeah. Because before you learnt your way around, it was just like a warren.
Have you had those nightmares since you left working there?
I have had... They come back whenever I'm stressed.
Okay.
They're like my stress dreams.
Yeah,
as soon as I get zombie nightmares, I'm like,
I'm stressed.
Something's going on. That's one of my warning flags that I maybe to do a bit more self-care.
Oh my God.
One time I had a zombie dream about being on a boat. And there was zombie breakout happened on the boat, and I was trapped on the boat. You can't
get away, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen, it sounds very, very similar. Have you ever seen, videos of the employee bit at Disneyland or Disney World? Because they're underground tunnels as well, and it's really easy to get lost there. Yeah. And I've got into this rabbit hole on YouTube of the abandoned attractions at Disney World, because they build 4 attractions and they're so wealthy, when they decide not to go ahead with it, they just leave it set up until they want to use the space or the pieces for something else. And I've seen where people have got into those staff tunnels by mistake and recorded it, and they've got lost because it's absolute, it's like a literal maze, and then they end up in an abandoned attraction and it just looks horrific. Yeah. Oh my God. Imagine being that wealthy, you can just abandon a whole attraction.
I did go to, there's an abandoned theme park in the middle of the Vietnamese jungle, and they just drove us out to that. Well, we had to go on
just
bikes.
for nightmares.
We had to go on motorbikes to it was quite cool, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's become a bit of a tourist hotspot since then. The influencers found it.
I would quite like to go.
Because it's got like dragons and stuff.
That sounds really cool.
It's like very Chinese architecture, but in Vietnam. And it's in the middle of a jungle. And yeah, it's quite cool. I'll show you pictures if you remind me later.
Yeah, please do.
But that was weird because we got just driven through a jungle on motorbikes and no warning.
I guess it's like I find. I'm very, like, conflicted, but I find the images and videos of, like, Chernobyl very interesting, but I'm also very aware that it was a horrible tragedy, so I feel guilty about wanting to look at those pictures, so maybe that might be a good look at something like that.
It's interesting to see how nature reclaims a space.
That's why I like it. It reminds me of, like, The Last of Us, the video games, and now a TV show, I believe.
Like, especially when you look at the stuff as totally a tangent, how the dogs have evolved differently. The dogs that have grown up in that highly irradiated area.
Yeah.
And how, they've evolved to cope with that. And how they differ from modern dogs. And also with all those...
And there's rabbits as well, though.
Yeah, but all, like, the pet dogs that are all different breeds, how they've become one homogenous kind of group.
I've not seen...
Yeah, so it's all like... Well, they've all interbred so much, you can't really see distinctive breed types anymore.
I remember something about at school when they were talking about it, and they were saying, like, anyone that was born up to a certain date would have had radiation in them or whatever from the... So I think I remember our teacher saying, like, the year I was born, we would have still had, like, when my mum was pregnant, she would have had some of that radiation, so I would have been born with some of that radiation. Which is crazy.
I'm sure
because
our editor is currently screaming at us that this is incorrect.
Look, this was at school long ago, and I have a bad memory. And I went to school in the area that we live in, so just saying.
Suspect education. Anyway, back on topic.
Cosmic horror.
Okay. Oh no, I know what one you're going to talk about. That one really scared me out.
Oh, I might not be.
Okay. I feel like I know.
I might be. Okay, so I'm going to talk about The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. Visiting again. And there's another one. Might be the one you're thinking of. I read a few cosmic horrors at the beginning of the year, didn't I?
I don't know why they freak me out, because it's space, I don't know.
No, neither. That one's not involved, don't worry. You're thinking of Dead Silence.
Well, yeah, what's the one where it's the ship? And
yeah,
it's about,
don't worry, I didn't put that on this list. But Dead Silence is a good book. So this is The Twisted Ones. When Mouse's dad asks her to clean out... Her characters always have great names, don't they? Because the main character in the Hollow Places is called Carrot. It's like their nicknames, yeah. What's the main character in the... No,
she has bakery? A normal name. Mona, I think it is. But then she's a friend called Spindle.
Oh, yes. So there's always like... When Mouse's dad asks her to clean out her dead grandmother's house, she says yes. After all, how bad can it be? The answer is pretty bad. Grandma was a hoarder, and her house is stuffed with useless rubbish. That would be horrific enough, but there's more. Mouse stumbles across her step-grandfather's journal, which at first seems to be filled with nonsensical rants, until Mouse encounters some of the terrifying things he described for herself. Alone in the woods with her dog, Mouse finds herself face to face with a series of impossible terrors, because sometimes the things that go bump in the night are real and they're looking for you. And if she doesn't face them head on, she might not survive to tell the tale. This genuinely kept me up some nights.
Did it? Oh, yeah, it does sound a bit.
And it has this little thing where the more the characters kind of let the twisted ones into their mind, they'll be having a conversation and they'll just start saying the twisted ones whilst they're having a conversation. And it's really creepy. And that just was in my head for ages afterwards.
Did you find yourself being like in a conversation and just thinking the twisted ones? And
yeah.
You're like, it's coming for me!
Yeah, I was like, it's literally coming for me.
Yeah. Probably on purpose.
Easily on this list on the cosmic horror, I could have added The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher as well. But I decided to go for Twisted Ones because it fucked me up. And the next one is This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno. And this is about an Itza, which is like the book's version of an Alexa speaker or a Google speaker.
Yes, I do remember this one.
So it was Vera's idea to buy the Itza, the world's most advanced smart speaker. Didn't interest Tiago, but Vera thought it would be a bit of fun for them amidst the strange occurrences happening in the condo. It made things worse. The cold spots and scratching in the walls were weird enough, but peculiar packages started showing up at the house. Who ordered Industrial Lie? Then there was the eerie music at odd hours. Tiago waking up to Itza projecting light shows in an empty room. It was funny and strange, right up until Vera was killed, and Tiago's world became unbearable. Pundits and politicians all looking to turn his wife's death into a symbol for their own agendas. A barrage of texts from her well-meaning friends about letting go and moving on. Waking to the sound of Itza talking softly to someone in the living room. The only thing left to do was to get away from Chicago, away from everything and everyone. A secluded cabin in Colorado seemed like the perfect place to hole up with his crushing grief. But soon Tiago realises there's no escape, not from his guilt, not from his simmering rage, and not from the evil hunting him, feeding on his grief, determined to make its way into the world. So this is like a horror about grief and loneliness and technology. Like a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, it does sound a bit Black Mirror-y.
So good.
Because, like, they're always listening.
Yeah, we have a Google Hub in the bedroom, which you obviously learnt when you stayed. Did it bother you?
Didn't really use it. I even turned your lights on and off manually at the wall.
Yeah.
Just chose to ignore it.
Sometimes it tries to talk to me and I'm like, hey, shush, I'm not talking to you.
Shush, demon!
And we had it when we lived at my in-laws, and my mother-in-law really didn't like it. And like sometimes it would just be her in house, and the Google would be like, I'm sorry, I didn't understand you, and she'd get really freaked out.
Yeah, my nanas used to randomly go off all the time in her kitchen. So did her old radio, though.
But, like, yeah, so my mother-in-law was like, it's like it's always listening. I'm like, but they do. By definition, they have to always be listening, because how can they hear you say, okay, Google, or whatever?
To be fair, when I worked in a tech store, I worked in a second-hand tech store, and this is before they fixed this thing, or they got rid of the feature anyway. If you ask the Alexa, do you work for the government, she just shut herself down. Yeah. And I think someone like built that in as a joke.
Done, yeah.
But people genuinely used to get so concerned.
It reminds me of, you know when these things go around Facebook to scare the olders, the boomers.
Yeah. Put this as your status so that someone can't use your images.
Your photos, yeah. And when the thing went round about how WhatsApp and like Google Messenger, they have access to your speaker, they're listening in, and I'm like, well, yeah, you need to give them permission to do voice notes. Like, how else are they doing voice notes? Like, it's not as seedy as you think. And
no, they're just going to use it to sell you stuff anyway.
And yeah, anyway, you give Facebook permission to do that. I don't understand what your issue is. You already have all of these apps on your phone that you've given permission to do that.
So the person I'm dating won't have like social media for these reasons, but then has Amazon and Google,
which is just as bad. Yeah,
and Reddit and YouTube, and I'm like, they are still listening.
WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, isn't it now? So.
Although that's not the only reasons. I feel like if he listens to this, he'll be cross.
Yeah, no,
there's many layered reasons, but
no, I mean, we should step away from social media.
I feel like it's one of those things. It's if it's not harmful to you, live and let live. Like I'm one of the people that I can see things online and they don't affect me that deeply, and I can just be like swipe off. And like I also believe you can control your algorithm to a certain extent. So if you're seeing harmful content, it's because you're interacting with it.
Yeah.
And these algorithms are built, they're clever, so just swipe away, do the I do not want to see this.
Except for the YouTube algorithm, that's not clever.
No.
That will always send you down a right-wing rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Everything leads to conspiracies on YouTube.
I think, how you use social media is down to the individual person, because like, it doesn't bother me, I don't get addicted to it, I can put it down.
Like, all of my social media apps have a limit of how much I can use them a day. I have, like, that thing set up.
I don't have limiters. I probably should skip. I think I might need one for TikTok, but I feel like once I'm back at work, that'll stop anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so next we're going to do biological horror. It's just what I named it. I don't know if that's the actual
these aren't real genres. These are Tali genres.
Until now, they have been real ones. Okay. But this one is...
a Tali genre.
The one I made up, yeah. It could be real, who knows. So... the first one is Annihilation by Jeff VanderMeer, and this is the first in the Southern Reach series. This has a film. I think it's on Netflix.
Okay.
So, Area X has been cut off from the rest of... So, also, Cosmic, Sporer, and biological horror, all very kind of interlinked. I just wanted to separate them out. You can see what's scaring me at the moment, because I didn't really go for witches and clowns.
This is definitely affected by a pandemic, I reckon. Like this whole thing's been airborne and spread.
Yeah, definitely.
I reckon this has been influenced by...
I think it's like more...
the worldwide trauma.
It's more horrific because we've gone through something recently.
Yeah. And you've seen how quickly if something like that did get released into the world.
Yeah, I used to always think, well, people would just not spread it, but now I know people would and they wouldn't care.
Yeah.
Now I know people would happily let other people die
live your life, haven't you?
So that they can go buy toilet roll or whatever.
Gotta live my life.
Don't give a shit that I'm killing other people.
Can't put my life on hold for COVID forever.
No, I'm not going to get a jab though.
Which is something that someone at my boyfriend's workplace recently said. Came in with COVID and was like, I'm not going to put my life on hold for COVID.
What about everyone else's life?
Couldn't understand where he was like, well, what if someone's got a grandma or a parent who's like vulnerable?
Or just someone here is
vulnerable and you don't know.
Yeah.
They've got a chronic illness, they've got cancer, they're not
medically compromised.
Yeah. So it's still happening. So that's why I think these are more horrors that play on our minds.
Yeah,
because...
now I know how the humans would act. I'm like, do you know what?
This could happen.
Kill us all. Area X has been cut off from the rest of the continent for decades. Nature has reclaimed the last vestiges of human civilization. The first expedition returned with reports of a pristine landscape. The second expedition ended in mass suicide. The third expedition in a hail of gunfire as its members turned on one another. The members of the 11th expedition returned as shadows of their former selves, and within weeks all had died of cancer. In Annihilation, the first volume of Jeff VanderMeer's Southern Reach trilogy, we join the 12th expedition. The group is made up of 4 women, an anthropologist, a surveyor, a psychologist, the de facto leader, and our narrator, the biologist. Their mission is to map the terrain, record all observations of their surroundings and of one another, and above all, avoid being contaminated by Area X itself. They arrive expecting the unexpected, and Area X delivers. They discover a massive topographic anomaly.
It's really testing you today, isn't it?
They discover stuff. And life forms that surpass understanding. But it's the surprises that come across the border with them and the secrets the expedition members are keeping from each other that change everything. So this one, I've not seen the film yet, but I'm sure this film is going to have that kind of beauty of the nature reclaiming stuff.
Yeah. But the ones... So do they know why Area X was like cut off?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, and they're like...
So I'm wondering why they're sending in expeditions when it's like something that's been cut.
That's a good question. So it's a series. I don't know. I can't remember how many books it is. I think it's 3.
Like, I just wonder if you have like 11 groups of people come back fucked up. At that point, you're like, you know what? Live and let live.
Yeah. But the government want to know, obviously. The next one in the biological horror. The Ruins by Scott Smith. I recently talked about this.
Okay.
So, craving an adventure to wake them from their lethargic Mexican holiday before they return home, 4 friends set off in search of one of their own who has travelled to the interior to investigate an archaeological dig in the Mayan ruins. Do you remember?
I'm remembering this one now.
This has a film. The film's shit. Don't watch it. After a long journey into the jungle, the group come across a partly camouflaged trail and a captivating hillside covered with red flowers. Lured in by these, the group move closer until they happen across a gun-toting Mayan horseman who orders them away. In the midst of the confrontation, one of the group steps inadvertently backwards onto the flowering vine, and at that moment their world changes forever. The vines are alive. In case you didn't pick up on the context.
Talk to them.
Okay, I've got 3 more. This
right.
group has 3. This is a new... what's the word? A new type of horror that I've discovered. A new subgenre. And it's called academic horror. It's not the same as dark academia, though.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So the first one is one that I literally read the other day. And it's called Feed Them Silence by Mandelo. And this is a novella. And it says, what does it mean to be in kind with a non-human animal? Or in Dr. Sean Kalyn's case, to be in kind with one of the last remaining wild wolves. So this is set in like a near future when a lot of animals are dying off because of climate issues. Using a neurological interface to translate her animal subject's perception through her own mind, Sean intends to chase both her scientific curiosity and her secret, lifelong desire to experience the intimacy and freedom of wolfishness, to see the world through animal eyes, smell the forest thick with messages, even taste the blood and viscera of a fresh kill, and above all, to feel the belonging of a pack. Sean's tireless research gives her a chance to fulfill that dream, but pursuing it has a terrible cost. So they've come up with this system that means that they implant something in the wolf's brain and something in Sean's brain, and when she goes into this thing, she experiences it through the wolf's eyes and emotions, and she just kind of devolves a bit, like...
Just goes a bit mad, or goes a bit animally, or...
Kind of both and kind of neither.
Okay.
It's a really interesting book. It did not go in the direction I thought. But it was really, really good.
Okay.
Very kind of eerie, very scientific. It's a novella, so it's not very long. Next one is Catherine House by Elisabeth Thomas. Everyone read this, please.
Yeah, I've heard that you mentioned this one
about
a few times.
Every time I can. So Catherine House is a school of higher learning like no other. Hidden deep in the woods of rural Pennsylvania, this crucible of reformist liberal arts study, with its experimental curriculum, wildly selective admissions policy, and formidable endowment, has produced some of the world's best minds. Prize-winning authors, artists, inventors, Supreme Court justices, presidents, and for those lucky few selected, tuition, room and board are free. But acceptance comes with a price. Students are required to give the house 3 years, summers included, completely removed from the outside world. Family, friends, television, music, even their clothing must all be left behind. In return, the school promises a future of sublime power and prestige, and that its graduates can become anything or anyone they desire. It's very atmospheric. The house is a character in the story. I just love it, and I feel like not enough people are talking about it, and a lot of the people that are talking about it just don't like it, and I don't know why.
Really? What do they say when they don't like it?
It's slow and boring, and it's plotless. It's plotless.
Oh yeah, well that's what you like, isn't it, though?
And I was looking up the author, because this came out in 2020, and I've literally been talking about it ever since. And the author's not written anything else yet, and I need something else written, please and thank you.
Come on now.
And the last one from this section, A Deadly Education by Naomi, Novik, the Scholarman series. Now, you might be saying, is this a horror? You are correct. It does not come under horror, but it is 100% an academic horror. So, we're mentioning it.
We've found the loophole.
Yeah. So, this one is... I decided that Orion Lake needed to die after the second time he saved my life. Everyone loves Orion Lake. Everyone else, that is. Far as I'm concerned, he can keep his flashy combat magic to himself. I'm not enjoying his pack of adoring fans. I don't need help surviving the Scholomance, even if they do. Forget the hordes of monsters and cursed artifacts. I'm probably the most dangerous thing in the place. Just give me a chance and I'll level mountains and kill untold millions. Make myself the Dark Queen of the world. At least that's what the world expects. Most of the other students in here would be delighted if Ryan killed me like one more evil thing that's crawled out of the drains. Sometimes I think they want me to turn into the evil witch they assume I am. The school certainly does. So it is, it is more of a dark fantasy, dark academia.
Yeah, the school is essentially just trying to kill them all the time.
Yeah. But I think that's a really good book to pick up. And just because this is a new term I discovered, so let me just explain what academic horror is. So academic horror is a subgenre of academia. Visually, it takes horror such as cosmic or Lovecraftian horror and applies it to academia. So in terms of literature to do with academic horror. Why am I really struggling with all of these words today? In terms of literature, it's usually let me find the exact term that I found. Okay, so unlike dark academia, academic horror is not about finding the beauty in study. It's about commiserating the dark curiosity, grueling work and willpower that goes into the pursuit of knowledge. So it's about the strange, the terrifying, the darkest part of the stacks of reference. And to call it beautiful would be a lie. So it's like dark academia kind of romanticizes it.
Yeah.
And academic horror is more like with the darker side of it. It's
Horrifies
not quite,
it.
Yeah, it's not romanticising it. It's
I
not,
can see how daily education fits in that.
Yeah, it's not days like sitting in the sun reading a book. It's you're going into the
cozy
darkest,
library stacks.
Yeah,
No, it's not that.
No, you're going into the darkest depths of science and research and academia, and you're going to lose yourself on the way. And
that's my experience of academia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the romanticised version I've only found in TV shows. So yeah, that is my little list. I hope at least one of these is something you might want to read or pick up. Please let us know if you do pick up any of these on my recommendation. I would love that.
Yeah, I always wonder if people pick up things from our rec list.
Yeah,
like,
please let us know. Please follow us on TikTok or Instagram, or you can join our Facebook group that we've made. It's called Lazy Book Lovers Podcast.
Yeah.
And we want to start a informal, casual community over there where we can chat. So you can come over there and let me know if you read any of these books, or if you have any recommendations. That would be great.
Or things for us to read, or to do a rec list for.
Please, yeah.
Because we can do the searching of the internet and bring it to you.
And if you liked this episode, please rate and review it. If you leave a written review in particular, that helps the algorithm gods push this episode and the podcast to more people to see. We've also got our 100th episode fast approaching, and we would love to do a Q&A episode. So if you have any questions, please let us know. You could drop it anywhere in DMs, comments, etc. But Tony has also made a form which you'll find in our card. Happy Halloween. I hope you get lots of
spooky weekend,
fun reading and watching of spooky films done.
I'm going to a Barbie and Ken themed Halloween party.
Of course. There's going to be so many Halloween costumes of Barbie and Ken this year.
I don't know. I was like, this is a really cool idea. But then I was looking at the spooky stuff in the shop I went to last night. I was like, I'm kind of sad I'm not wearing a super tacky spooky outfit though.
Maybe you could look at what horror Barbies... if there's been any horror
no, I'm
Barbies
going as
released.
Weird Barbie, so I'm wondering if I do weird spooky Barbie.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Because I was like, if I set out not to look pretty on purpose, then that's fine.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Anyway,
my
have
son
a good Halloween.
is going to be Deadpool. And he's like, can I have a real gun? And I'm like, no.
no, Mummy doesn't know how to get a real gun.
Can I have a gun with fake bullets? And I was like, no.
Are you going to shoot people with those fake bullets when we're out?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you going to shoot your baby sister?
Yes.
Yes. So, yeah. Right, wish me luck anyway. Bye, guys.
Happy Halloween.
Have a lovely time.